All right, enough with the theatrics. What we'll be going over today is the roadmap for this channel. And a roadmap is basically a plan or a strategy with actions for achieving a goal or an outcome. In our case, becoming game dev professionals. We can picture this as a living map that I'll be modifying and updating as time goes on. I do have an idea of what the next couple of steps are going to be, and that's what this video is about. So with that, what's the roadmap and how can you use this to help you on your journey? When it comes to learning, I don't like the approach of just being thrown in. I find it to be extremely inefficient and leading to a lot of mistakes and learning things the hard way. It's like being picked up and thrown into a completely foreign land. We can think of like the rainforest in Brazil or the Sahara Desert, and you're only given a map, but the map is blank, only revealing exactly where you are. And you're told to find the exit. A recent example of this was when I was trying to learn software development. I constantly had questions in the back of my mind like, when am I going to be employable? When can I get a job? Am I a junior level developer or intermediate level? Are there tools or subjects that other developers knew about that I didn't know about? And I didn't have the answers to any of these questions for honestly a couple of years. This is where the anxiety and uncertainty come in because you don't know what's around you. Now, this is an excellent way if you're trying to generate these feelings in a scary scenario of a game. We can think of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in the beginning, where Link and Zelda are traveling what appears to be endless tunnels down into the caves to some unknown distance, to some unknown evil.
We've been descending for a while now. These tunnels are deeper than I thought. What could be down here?
But when it comes to learning, this is not what we want to feel like. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have a completely detailed map up front in terms of learning because you can't learn everything all at once. But I have found, at least in my opinion and experience with tutoring others, that getting a basic or an initial concept of the bigger picture makes it a lot easier and less intimidating to learning the finer details. You can see this in Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom because if you played the game, you know that you start off with a large map. But the large map is broken up into specific areas. And in order to eliminate those areas, you have to reach towers, which will shoot you up into the sky and allow you to get a good picture of everything around you. Now, that doesn't flesh out everything in fine detail. You still have to walk and explore those areas to see what's actually there. But it gives you a general idea of where the boundaries are. And I want to take a similar approach when it comes to learning game production. Just as there were several areas inside of the Zelda games that you had to map out, there's several areas inside of game production that we need to take a look at and define the boundaries for. So the roadmap that we have is going to be cut up into two phases. Phase 1 is really going to be focusing on getting the layout of the lands or trying to define those boundaries. This is going to help us to get the full picture of game production as a whole. And from what I've gathered so far, there are 3 phases of game production. There's pre-production, production, and post-production. Oh, hey. Meet Oliver. He's going to interrupt us a lot. But I've also identified about 7 areas that go through each of these 3 phases, working closely together to weave the tapestry of the overall story, vision, and experience of the game. And these are game production, which tends to go over budgets, schedules, and management methodologies. There's game design, which goes over the initial concept of the game, narrative, and character personas. There's game art, which goes over concept art, modeling, rigging, animation, and more. There's game engineering, which goes over software engineering or coding, networking, cybersecurity, and other technologies. There's game audio and video, which will go over audio design or sound design, motion capture, cinema, directing, and others. There's game quality assurance, which will go over alpha testing and beta testing. And lastly, there's what I call game business or corporate, which will go over things like publishers or how teams should be formed or contract negotiation, HR, and the like. Now, I know I've probably upset somebody by not having a specific area that you may have identified. And to be honest, I really wanted writing or game narrative to have its own area because I'm such a huge proponent of it, and I feel like it's severely lacking in games today. But 7 areas make it easy for the colors to match the colors of the rainbow for distinguishing the videos. And what do I mean by that? There's going to be a master playlist that will contain fairly closely all the videos in sequential order of my journey. But I'm also going to have or create a playlist for each of the 7 areas of game production so that if you're only interested in 1 or 2 areas, you can simply look at those playlists. Each area will have borders around them with a specific color. Production is going to have red, design, orange, art, yellow, engineering, green, audiovisual will be blue, quality assurance will be indigo, and business corporate will be violet. These mimic the colors of the rainbow and will make it easier to distinguish what video applies to which area of game production. Each area has various roles and topics associated with it, and I'm already noticing that some topics will cover over multiple or touch multiple different areas. These are going to have multicolored borders with them, and I'll put the video in the associated playlists. I'll be jumping back and forth and weaving these 7 areas together as I learn their part in the tapestry of game production. There will be videos that will have a white border around the thumbnail, much like this one. And that's because it applies to all the different areas of game production. We're also going to have videos that don't have a border around them at all. And that's because although they don't fall under any specific area of game production, they're just good for general game dev life. These are going to be topics like work-life balance, game dev health, or just wisdom for daily life. During the first phase of this roadmap, there will be a lot of focus on how-tos of the various roles up to the point at which we see how they connect together to start forming a game. This stage is going to be focusing on learning the fundamentals of design, art, and engineering. There's going to be a lot of questions surrounding the future of these areas because of the growing effect of AI. So we'll be exploring that as well. All right, if you're going to attack me, you need to get out of here. During the second phase of this roadmap, we're going to be traversing through all the 7 areas of game production again, but with a focus on actually creating a game. During that phase of the roadmap, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on what producers do, what publishers do, and several other topics such as game genres, finding fun, what is fun, revenue models, and more. I have a deep passion for what each person brings in their role in developing video games, and I've pondered the idea of creating a game myself. Now, I may or may not see this through to the end because I am a husband, a father, and a full-time worker. And I know to become proficient in a specific area, it takes time, a lot of it. And I'm not going to be able to do this for all the different areas. But with this in mind, I know that I will admire even more so what each person does. And that's the bigger picture. So, what are the first steps? First, we're going to briefly go over the different phases of game production in a bit more detail, as well as the different areas and roles within those areas that I've found. Keep in mind that these are just going to be initial descriptions and will probably evolve as I continue learning. Next, we'll move on to studying narrative design and explore things like the structure of story, character arcs, and narrative techniques as they are applied to video games. But here we are. If there's a specific topic or an area that you're interested in and want to dive deeper into, post it in the comments below. I do have a specific route that I want to travel, but your opinions and thoughts will definitely influence the direction of this channel. And with that, Game Dev Imposters, the honeymoon is over. It's time to get to work. And that's because this applies to all the areas of game production. You are getting fur everywhere. Is this one, which applies to all areas of game production. You are not making this easy.